Here's one that'll take you back to the horseless carriage days, when they had the brakes on the outside and the crank in the front and then another crank in the back seat. Get the idea? So everybody hop in and let's go to town.
Merry Oldsmobile, down the road of life we'll fly. Automobile bring you and I to the church we'll swiftly steal. Then our wedding bells will peal. You can go as far as you like with me in my merry Oldsmobile. Come away with me, Lucille, in my merry Oldsmobile. Down the road of life we'll fly. Automobile bring you and I to the church we'll swiftly steal. Then our wedding bells will peal. You can go as far as you like with me in my mare.
We welcome you. We're friends. Yeah. Hello there. What can you see? It didn't stop them. Guns, tanks, bombs. They're like toys again.
This is the first of a series of motion pictures about motion pictures. How they began, how they are made, and the people who make and show them. It all started less than 60 years ago when their prospects were so poor that Thomas Edison would not spend $150 to protect the foreign rights of his kinetoscope. The movies, like the automobile, grew up in the 20th century. But where the automobile is tangible and real.
Last September, Chevy announced the new Monte Carlo. Now we'd like to announce that you can buy one. For the first time, Chevy is in a position to match the strong initial demand for it.
It's a Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo is the first in luxury cars, with high-intensity headlamps, with the longest hood in Chevrolet history, covering the standard 350 cubic inch V8 engine, with power disc brakes, full wheel covers, yet with all its style and luxury. The Monte Carlo cost hundreds of dollars less than other personal luxury cars. See your Chevy dealer. Now that we're able to build enough Monte Carlos, maybe you ought to do something nice for yourself.
This ship is Monte Carlo. A whole new field of work.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Officer Maxwell.
Hello, I'm Betty. Hi, I'm Jack.
We'd like you to join us while we look at some pictures and discuss how you can be your own traffic policeman.
Gee, you mean we get to be real policemen?
No, not quite. But that's getting ahead in our story. First, let's make sure we all know what the word traffic means.
Traffic is going places, isn't it?
Yes, we all spend much of our time going from one place to another, from home to school, to the store, to the playground, over to a friend's house, and to lots of other places. With so many of us going so many places, we have paths, sidewalks, streets, and highways on which we can go in an orderly manner. Sometimes we walk, and sometimes we ride on bicycles, or in cars, and buses. All this movement of people walking and riding from place is called traffic. And in order to make it possible for all of us to go places easily and safely, there are certain things we all must do. Do you have any idea what these things are?
You mean like cars are supposed to stay off the sidewalks?
That could be one example. Imagine how dangerous it could be if cars drove down sidewalks. It wouldn't be very safe for those who were walking, would it?
No, and people aren't supposed to stand around in the streets either, or they might get hurt.
That's right. If people stood around in the streets, getting in the way of cars, this would be dangerous too. So we realize there are certain things we must do in traffic. But why must we do these things?
So we won't get hurt.
That's the main reason. Can we think of another reason?
Sometimes, isn't it, so he won't be selfish?
Yes. We mustn't ever forget that streets and sidewalks are for everybody. So we must share them by being courteous and considerate of each other.
It's later in the day now, and about this time, Bob usually goes out to pick up the afternoon paper. There's Tommy Hawkins, a good member of the school safety patrol. Like all the patrols, Tommy's helping with the pedestrian safety drive. Looks as if he's more concerned over Bob's safety than Bob is himself. You're not a very good pedestrian example for those kids, Bob. You sure were lucky that time, Bob. Pretty close to becoming that obituary in the Sentinel. Well, the workday is over and Bob's on his way home. Or will be just as soon as he picks up Grandpa at the grocery store. And this is Grandpa. Far younger than his years, Grandpa also has a mind of his own. Now watch this. Grandpa is too impatient to walk to the corner. Looks as if he's going to jaywalk across that busy street.
Son, I sure thought I was the goner that time.
What did you think you were doing out there in that traffic, Dad?
Now, what did the two of you think you were doing? First, you. Stop your car in the middle of a busy street for your passenger, and then you. Risk your life and the lives of others by jaywalking. You can't just drive right off. There's a little business back here for both of you. You've caused an accident.
With a rapidly increasing number of cars on the road, 72 million cars and trucks, with more horsepower using higher octane fuels, with increased stop-and-go driving, more corrosive condensates, all this with more mufflers and pipes per car and shorter muffler life meant a zooming market for replacement exhaust system parts. And who was in the best position to capitalize on muffler business? The automotive service dealers, who had traditionally served the muffler market. The service stations, repair shops, and car dealerships who were looked on by their customers to help them take care of their cars. What's wrong? That's all true, isn't it?
Sure, but that's old stuff.
Yeah, so what's new?
Well, I was just trying to work up to the fact that AP in this rising market rose rapidly to first in muffler sales by 1956 and has been leading competitors ever since. Mufflers are way out first in parts and accessory sales, and AP is way out first in muffler sales. So your best profit bet is AP. See?
Now, you may be gaining in muffler sales, but you're sure losing one thing.
What?
Your hair.
The dirt road and creaking carriage, backbone of travel in America 70 years ago. Jolting over the rocks and the ruts, the carriage couldn't go very fast, and so most Americans didn't go very far. Country folks and city dwellers often were born, lived, and died without traveling more than 50 miles from their homes. These were the horse and buggy days. Alive again in these authentic turn-of-the-century scenes. Newspapers sold for a penny, and a nickel paid for a ride on the steam-powered L. McKinley was president. Utah had just become the 45th state,
and a marvelous new invention, the motion picture camera, was recording life in America. Around the world, many men in many lands tinkered with a strange kind of carriage, a horseless carriage that would run on gasoline. A French inventor had produced history's first car in 1886, and 7 years later, America's first horseless carriage was built in a bicycle shop. No longer would the farmer be locked on his land, cut off from the outside world. The tin monster was to cut a swath across rural America. And the rural America of trackless plains, impassable roads, and isolated farms would never again be the same. By 1903, there were more than 1,000 automobile manufacturers in America. In those days, each car was built from the chassis up on one spot. Although necessarily a slow operation, production for the year still reached a stupendous 9,000 cars. Now the carriage parade had to share the city streets with a procession of motor cars. Meanwhile, Americans wondered if President Theodore Roosevelt would seek a second term, and if the Wright brothers' plane would really fly. In automobile plants, the assembly line was born. Instead of moving the men past the cars were moved past the men. Assembly time for each car was cut from 12 hours to 93 minutes. The city's streets belonged to the automobile. In 3 short decades, the horse, man's chief means of transportation for centuries, had vanished from the nation's thoroughfares. From 1903 to 1916, the annual production of cars jumped from 9,000 to 1 million. Sprawling plants sprang up across America, dramatizing the march of mass production, which more than any other industrial development changed the American way of life. With each passing year, industry found new ways of perfecting the assembly line technique. Just as mass production meant more cars, it also meant cheaper costs and lower prices, putting the auto within the reach of most families. Soon cars were coming off the assembly line at the unheard-of rate of 1 every 2 minutes. Almost overnight, the automobile and mass production had put America on wheels.
Well, now it's 8 o'clock in the Curry household. Tonight we had a good Irish stew. The dishes are done, the dog has been fed, and the family is settling down for a quiet evening in the living room. Yes, they'll be like this for the rest of the evening.
In an effort to cut down on the increasing number of pedestrian traffic accidents, Mayor Adams of Lakewood today proclaimed this week as Pedestrian Safety Week. During the week, traffic police and safety patrol members will hand out small printed warnings to pedestrians and drivers ignoring standard safety rules. Take these cards seriously. They may save your life. The mayor's proclamation was signed in his office this morning, witnessed by members of the city council.
You know, I walked across the street on a red light today, and the policeman gave me one of those cards. It said to wait for the green light before crossing.
Well, you're not alone in that. I got a card or so myself. But the more I think about it, those cards are just a pack of nonsense.
The trouble today is there's too dang much traffic. Why, I remember when I was a kid, way back in the spring of 1895, we drove a team of horses from Illinois to Nebraska. Why, sometimes we drive all day without seeing another team. Stop signals and traffic cops hadn't even been born yet. Sometimes we'd come to the top of a hill and look down. Couldn't see a single soul for miles and miles.
Wow! Oh! Wow! Oh!
Get the idea?
Sure.
All right, let's play a game. I'll start a story, and you pretend that you're the boy or girl in the story, so we can see if your policeman is on the job. Jack, let's start with you. Let's pretend that we're on a busy street in the city. Now, we have a name for these things we must do in traffic to share with others and avoid getting hurt. What do we call them?
You mean like look both ways before you cross the street?
Yes.
That's a rule.
You bet it is. We have traffic rules which help us be good citizens by reminding us to be alert, careful, courteous, and considerate. Can we think of some more rules?
Hi, this is Pat Hernan at the Malt-O-Meal Proving Ground, testing the power and energy of Super Quick Malt-O-Meal, the hot wheat cereal that puts spark in your engine, gives you plenty of passing power. Here's Jimmy Jackson fueling up with a chocolate Malt-O-Meal breakfast. Let's follow him with our isolated camera.
Get on the Malt-O-Meal mobile. Get on the Malt-O-Meal mobile. Put some spark in your engine. See how good you feel. Get on the Malt-O-Meal mobile. Get on the Malt-O-Meal mobile. Get hot and start your ignition with the bowl of Malt-O-Meal.
Great time.
When you're low on fuel, fill her up with regular or chocolate Malt-O-Meal. I'm hungry.
That's it, huh? Yeah. Hey, that's not a bad deal for
How you doing, boys? Can I help you?
Yeah, I saw your ad in the paper here. This is the car, right?
This is it. You
All
interested in buying the car for your mom?
No, for me.
You want to buy this car for yourself?
Well, I just like to look at it, you know.
Well, it's up to you, of course. You play football?
Well, a little flag football, yeah.
I bet you're a hit with the women, aren't you?
Well, you know, we go out every once in a while, you know, Friday night.
Well, of course, they aren't going to be too interested in this car, but that's not what you're really interested in, is it?
You don't think they'd like this car?
Well, would you be if you were a girl? Well, I'll tell you what, if you're interested in a car that's going to get you some women, have you looked in the back of the lot?
You gotta sell 'em. You gotta tell 'em. You gotta let the people know.
Who wants to look at a muffler? Guy who owns a car thinks a muffler's just a big tin can.
The customer is interested in long, corrosion-free muffler life, and you can prove AP is longer lasting.
How?
AP and only AP fights corrosion all three ways, with coated steels.
Almost every waking moment of every day, we encounter situations calling for the use of our mental faculties. Often we have to think and act quickly. A moment of decision, of split-second thinking. Impossible? Not at all. For this driver possesses the finest of all thinking organisms, the human brain.
That's what policemen are for. Sure, that's a policeman's job.
At first it may seem that way, but that's not entirely true. It certainly is the traffic policeman's job to help people learn the rules and to remind them when they break the rules. But traffic policemen can't be everywhere at once. If each one of us had to have a special traffic policeman to watch over us all the time, that'd be pretty silly. There are so many more people to watch than there are policemen, it just wouldn't be possible. And it isn't necessary. Boys and girls who want to be considerate of others and avoid getting hurt must learn to be their own traffic policemen.
How? What do we do first?
You'll find that they concern the condition of your car, your own condition as a driver, your care in trip planning, your turnpike driving techniques, your night driving precautions, your action in emergencies. A knowledge of these 6 requirements of superhighway driving not only contributes to your safety, but also adds greatly to the pleasure and economy of your trip. Driving at sustained speeds, hour after hour, calls for engine, powertrain, and tires in excellent condition. Many superhighway accidents involve cars that pull off the road because of mechanical failure. The next service station may be 30 miles away. That's all right for the driver who's rolling along, but not so good for this fellow standing on the sidelines. He'll get help, but he'll wait for it and pay for it. To prevent loss of time and money, have a car checkup at home. The engine, the exhaust system, windshield wipers and washers, brakes, tires, steering, and lights. Also, fuel, water, oil, and tire condition every 2 hours on the pipe. Yes, it really pays to leave your troubles at home.
To the sea. My wheels sing a song on the road where I belong. I drive.
New Camaro, the Super Hugger, with an improved front and rear suspension that lets you feel the road without feeling the bumps. With front disc brakes for better stopping, with 6 engines available and 4 transmissions.
And the mountains roll by, deserts, lakes, open sky, you and me flying high down the road.
Inside, bucket seats up front and bucket seat cushions in the rear. See the new Camaro, the Super Hugger, and the new Corvette at your Chevy dealer sports department. Then go hug a road.
This is the kind of car that's going to make you score with the women. We're really proud of this car here. The upholstery, the custom design, it's a classic.
Looks pretty good.
Oh, there's nothing like it.
$895, that's not bad.
It's all been, the special hood, that's to scoop the air and to force the air down into the carburetor.
So that makes more power, right?
Sure, it would make more power. What do you think it's for?
And it's better than that other one over there, right?
Oh, are you kidding? Look at it.
The car was a gateway to our country's grandeur. The glory of America, till then seen by so few, could now be enjoyed by all. The family picnic became a summer Sunday tradition. And people who doubted the automobile's dependability soon discovered that it could go anywhere. No matter how tough the test, no matter how much it shook, trembled, rattled, and clattered, the car managed somehow to get through. The Tin Lizzie had to be tough. Early roads were little more than carriage trails. As late as 1904, there were less than 150 miles of paved roads in all America. In the Roaring 20s, large-scale highway construction finally got underway. Millions of miles of roads were built, but results always lagged far behind the need. Over the years, America has produced more miles of cars than miles of new highways. Now the news magazine visits 3 of more than 40 automobile assembly plants scattered across the United States. Each is a stadium of industrial skills where cars take shape before our eyes in the steady flow that is modern-day mass production. Here is an industry that employs almost 1 million persons, the world's largest single manufacturing force. In the second plant, too, each assembly line movement is coordinated almost to the instant, feeding the right part to the right place at the right time. And special tools help create a new car where there was once 8,500 parts. Today's factory achieves a speed and volume of mass production never dreamed of before, and at the same time an accuracy that can be measured to within 1/1,000,000th of an inch.
Is that normal?
Well, I'm sure I don't have to tell an intelligent kid like you that this is normal for a high-performance engine.
But it's supposed to have that gunk on it on the end there?
Certainly, but if you don't like it, all you got to do is change the oil filter.
Is that expensive?
$1.15, $1.25 at the most.
That's
Trust
all?
me.
Well, that's no problem.
Of course not. I'm here to help you, right?
Appreciate it.
Super roads are safer, but the constant pace and comfort can lull you into a deceptive feeling of security. You forget you're moving fast enough to fly an airplane, 88 feet per second. If you keep staring at the road mile after mile, you get drowsy, almost hypnotized. And when that happens, you can drive right into trouble. To help avoid drowsiness, sometimes called highway hypnosis, get plenty of sleep the night before so that you start out fresh and alert. It helps to get out of the car and stretch. So plan to stop at a plaza at least 5 minutes every hour after the first 2 hours of driving. If you begin to feel drowsy between stops, get some air. Sing songs.
Look down that lonesome road before you travel on. Look up, and seek your maker, for Gabriel blows his horn. Weary totem, such a load, trudging down that lonesome road. Look up, and seek your maker before you travel. Hit the road!
Thinking a problem through and making the right responses. The driver in this situation has to think through such a problem, to make a decision that may mean life or death. An oncoming car, no chance to drop back. Danger there, clear there. How is his mind working? He receives these stimuli, recognizes their meaning, then interprets them in terms of past experiences projected into the future. First, out of his experiences as a driver, he foresees what will happen if he fails to turn off onto the right or left shoulders of the road. In the third plant, there are more than 28 acres of equipment under one roof. Below, in a single operation, the many holes required in an engine block are drilled with fine precision at once. At peak production, cars can be assembled in this plant alone at the rate of 180 an hour, or 1 every 20 seconds. Together, America's automobile factories turn out more than 6 million cars a year. 70 years ago, there was not a single automobile in the United States. Today, there are 52 million, an industrial achievement without parallel in the history of the world. It was a momentous day, that day so long ago, when the automobile became a part of the American scene.
There are only two ways to improve roads like these: flatten or straighten them out, or put a new Camaro on them.
I drive my Camaro from the mountains to the sea.
New Camaro, the super hugger. With an improved front and rear suspension that lets you feel the road without feeling the bumps. See the new Camaro and the new Corvette in your Chevy dealer sports department. Chevrolet has just improved every road in America with the new Camaro.
A modern automobile is a masterpiece of complex engineering. Whether you're driving a sleek, streamlined convertible or a well-weathered car of ancient vintage, you have control of tremendous power. Least pressure on the controls. In fact, the engineering in today's cars is so complex that many drivers aren't concerned with why or how a car operates, just as long as it does operate and gets them where they want to go. They just want efficient transportation without having to bother too much about taking care of the car. And yet, each time you drive, you're trusting your life and the lives of those with you to the safe performance of your car. So naturally, it makes sense to take good care of your car, to keep it in tip-top operating condition. The kind of preventive maintenance that ensures good performance call for a regular check on these items: gasoline, oil, the battery, the cooling system, lights, tires, lubrication, and brakes. Each of these can be checked and serviced at gas stations and garages specializing in your make of car. However, some of these items require more frequent attention than others. The engine oil, the cooling system, the battery, all tires and lights should be checked whenever you stop for gas. And it's a good idea to have the gas tank filled whenever your fuel gauge drops to the quarter full mark. Plenty of gas and a frequent check of the oil, water, and tires will help prevent a breakdown when you're out on the road. In fact, the importance of properly circulating oil in the engine bearings can't be stressed too much. Nothing can do more damage to an engine than a drop in oil pressure. Always look at the stick gauge yourself to make sure the oil is clean and up to the proper level. And it's a good idea each time you stop to have the battery checked, to make sure the water in each cell is at the right level. The cooling system should also be checked every time you stop at a gas station. Keep plenty of clean water in the radiator. And don't forget, if you live in a colder climate, that when winter temperatures begin to fall toward the freezing mark, it's time to put a solution of antifreeze in the radiator. This antifreeze should be tested frequently throughout the winter. And in the spring, the radiator drained and flushed before clean water is put in. And don't neglect to have your windshield, headlights, and tail lights cleaned. Dirt on the windshield can often interfere with a clear view of the road ahead. And at night, of course, it's mighty important to have bright, clear headlights so you have maximum visibility. It's a fact that dirt on the lenses can often reduce the amount of light by 1/3. So keep your lights clean. And to be certain they're properly focused, have them inspected and adjusted at regular intervals. And always replace a burned-out light immediately.
Should he go off onto the right shoulder? He recalls the unpredictability of youngsters riding bicycles. This arouses the fear of what might happen if he struck one of the boys. Should he cut over to the left shoulder? He remembers frightening experiences with soft shoulders. This prompts him to foresee too clearly what might happen there. Which chance will he take? Now our man has to make his decision. To use his cerebrum to plan ahead and elaborate his responses, his choices. Which response to make?
God! Don't let him kill me!
He wants the car right now!
What are you going to do?
Give him one.
Not all problems are as exciting as this, but most are far more complicated, and all require the same functions of the brain. They require swift movement of impulses from center to center throughout the cerebrum as it performs these functions. The primary functions of perception and motor control, the secondary functions of analysis and integration, and most important of all, the functions of planning and directing responses.
Talk out loud. Keep your eyes moving, near, far, and to both sides. Chew gum. Move around and change your seat position. If nothing works, if drowsiness and blurred vision continue, get off the highway. It may save your life.